What's up guys, PyPop101 here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a map for Blade&Sorcery. It's been a long awaited tutorial, so let's get started. First off, what you want to do is you want to change out your standard save scene with a new scene that holds the map. So you right click, you go to create, you go down to scene, and you name it whatever you like. But I will name it test map. Now what you can do is you can drag it on and then simply remove this scene, or what I'd recommend is you just double click on it and notice the map scene changes. Next step is to actually create the ground for the map. So you can right click, you go to 3D object, cube. This can be whatever you like, but just try to make sure it's set to 0, 0, 0. And we're going to make our ground a little bit big. So this is a platform where we are going to stand on. Once we've created our ground right here, we can go to our SDK, scenes, and we drag in the proto level. We don't double click on it or else it will replace our map that we're making right now. After we do this, we open up world, we select the level definition, the spawn location, the item selector, the wave spawner, and start. These 5 are incredibly important and what you need to get a working map in Blade&Sorcery, where you can actually fight enemies, spawn weapons, etc. There's a couple other things that I'm going to be showing you, like the render cube map, world map, weapon rack, and zone, but those will be towards the end of this video. What you want to do now is just drag all of these into your new scene, all 5 of them, and make sure to not save the proto level, because if you save it with these components not being in it anymore, the proto level base that comes with the SDK will not actually have these components. So let's say you want to make a new map, it will be more difficult to add these in because they won't actually be in the proto level for you to copy and paste over. So if you don't save it, then you can still drag them in because they'll still be in the proto level. That was a little bit long-winded, but basically, don't save the proto level after changing it ever, because then it will stay as it normally is. But for now, what we can do is right-click on it, remove scene, select, don't save. And now we only have our save with the 5 things that we just added into it. To start, we have our level definition right here. We have our spawn locations, so wherever the enemies will spawn. So if you want to change these or add in points, if you scroll out, you will see where the enemies actually spawn. So if we drag them over like this, we can actually have them spawn at certain places in our map. It's a little bit different because my map is so small, but you guys can change these to be wherever you like. So, what you guys should make sure to do is drag up each of your spawn points so that enemies do not spawn into the floor right here. That said, one thing I should have mentioned at the start is, in the level definition, you start at the player start, where this start is right here, this game object. So just like with the enemies, make sure that you're not starting in the ground, because that would not be desirable, would it? So after actually adding in these spawners, one thing you can also do is, let's say you change the number to 5, it adds in another space for you at another transform, another place for your enemies to spawn at. So all you really need to do, you don't even need to name it, you can simply just add in a new game object, and that's where the enemies will spawn. So if I was to spawn an enemy like this, he would spawn under the book. But we really don't want that right now. So let's get rid of that. And let's set it back to 4. So we go to our wave spawner right here. Wave selector. Just make sure to drag in the spawn location into this right here. And the last thing is, if we change the ID to the arena, all of the waves spawned in will be the same waves as are in the arena. So every single one of the base waves of the game Now, since we skipped the item selector, what we can do is click on it. Click on the item selector, go to the UI. Now the item selector is right here. This is what we would change. So we can simply just drag all of it to be, let's do it like this, right here. And yes, it will be clipping, but for purposes of this video, that's fine. We have our item selector right next to the book. So as you can see in the UI, the spawn point is the spawn item transform. So that is right here. So wherever you want your weapons to spawn, it's dependent on where this transform, the spawn item, is. So weapons will currently spawn on the table, but if we wanted weapons to spawn right here, when pressing take or spawn in the book, when pressing spawn in the book, weapons will spawn right here. But why don't we set this back to normal? So with that, guys, we've gone over our level definition, spawn location, item selector, wave spawner, and our start. So now let's drag in the other functions that I was talking to you guys about in the beginning. To do this, again, we drag in our proto level, we hit world right here, and what we can do now is we can take the render cube map, world map, weapon rack, and a zone. So again, you can drag them all into your new map, and again, you remove the scene, but you don't save it. So first up, we have our world map, as I'm sure you guys know, but let's just drag it on. So now, this is where you can spawn yourself into a new map. So basically, as long as it's in, we leave this the exact same as the default. I'm just showing you guys what's in it. Okay, it's that easy. And again, I'd just like to tell you guys, you don't need to leave the books on these. So for example, if you know what you're doing, all you really need is the script and the base of the map. So really, we need this right here. We could delete the box, but in this case, we're going to leave the box in. So let's just drag it all towards the end, so it's not in our way when we're actually fighting enemies. Close this out. Now we have our weapon rack. All you guys really need to do is just drag it onto the map right here. And of course, make sure that these prongs right here are facing towards you in the map, so that they're not facing away, because if you look at this, the weapons are not holstered on this side, they're holstered in the front right here. So when you put stuff on, you actually want to be able to see it. So let's drag it over just a little bit more. And why don't we actually move our item selector over a little more, so we have some room. Now we have our zone component right here. Now this is a very important one. There's a whole lot of different things it can do, like despawning the NPCs, items, creating effects, teleporting, etc. But in this case, what we're going to be talking about is kill and despawn. All you guys really need to do is, let's set this to be 000. We add a component, type in box. We can use a box collider for this. So what you can do is you can size it up like this, but I'd simply just recommend hitting edit the collider, and it makes it super easy to create a zone. Now this is very helpful for many reasons. One of the most used of this is, let's say you fall out of your map right here. Well, you don't want to fall infinitely, right? You don't want to fall for an eternity. So what you do is you check kill player, kill NPC, despawn NPC, despawn item. So now when anything falls off the map and touches this, since we have it on the collider, it will now kill the NPC and player, despawn the item, etc. So that's exactly what we want, because we don't want to be falling forever. And like I said, there's a whole lot of other stuff you can do with this. I'm not going to go into it in this video, but definitely make sure to check it out, because there's a lot of fun stuff that can be done. And last but not least, we have our render cube map. Now, don't change anything with it, but if we hit create level preview, it will actually show us the spell orb icon that shows up in our book when we're trying to spawn into it in game. This can be changed, so if we, let's say, drag it down a little bit, put it a little bit closer, we create level preview again. Notice it's closer. This isn't really the most necessary of things to do, but it makes the map itself just look cleaner and match the rest of the orbs when you're trying to select it better. So, the last thing that I want to show you guys that I forgot in the beginning of this video is creating an audio. So what you want to do is right click, go down to audio, select audio source. This can be named whatever you like, but let's add in an audio clip. And this is a little bit long, but it's an hour, so it'll actually be able to show you everything that I need to very well. You can turn off the play on awake and add in a audio mixer linker. Since it is the music, we set it to music. So now let's go build this, and I'll show you how to reference everything in the JSON right after. So of course we go to addressable groups, we create a new one, and let's name it something like awesome map. As always, set it to default. Now what we can do is we can drag in our, let's take the audio source, put it right there. So if we drag in the test maps in the audio source, because this needs to be its own prefab, I'll show you why in a minute. Select everything, simplify the names, and let's actually change this to wave music. And if we scroll out and actually look at these, we have our testmap.cube and Unity. So notice the difference. This right here is the scene itself. This right here is the orb. So let's just change this right here to dot icon and save it. Set to default. Everything is saved. And we go to mod builder and exporter. Let's change it to amazing test map. Select everything else you have so that this is the only one selected. You build and export. No. Save and continue, and it builds. One thing that I forgot, I could delete the audio source right here. It doesn't really matter all that much because I turned off the play on awake function. So it's just kind of there and not really needed. But our map has been built. So what we can do now is we will start making our JSONs. Bear with me guys, JSONs are not fun. So what you want to do is go to streaming assets, default, Blade&Sorcery. Let's just take a level JSON. Let's just take it from the arena. Paste it in. Let's just drag it in. Okay, notice how everything was built. Level underscore arena. Well, we don't want it to be this. We want it to be our test map. So let's rename that test map. Test map. Our name is my super cool test map. The description can be something. You don't want to change any of those. Scene address. So the scene address, if we go back into our addressable group, the scene address, notice, remember that this is the scene right here. It's pipeop101.testmap. So that is what we are going to change. So pipeop101.testmap. test map. And our music wave address. So when the wave is playing, why don't we have that be our wave music? Oh, what do you know? It's almost like I did that on purpose. PyPop101's dot wave music. So music that only plays while the wave is going. And of course you can change the volume and everything. You can change the map orb rim color. It's a couple things you can play with. And then the last thing that you really need to change is the map cube. So if we change it to PyPop101's dot test map dot icon, just like how it is right here, everything is set. Now there's other stuff that you can play around with. If you don't know what you're doing, I'd recommend not doing it. But for our purposes, this is really everything we need. So if we save it, let's go test it out in game. Also guys, quick note before I forget. Since it is a mod for Blade&Sorcery, you need to remember to grab a manifest. So let me do that before we actually try that in game. And we want it to be named the exact same, because if it's different, then you can't use Vortex. So this right here, game version. Okay, saved it. Now let's actually go try it in game.
Alright guys, let's see how this actually looks. So we have our test map right here, with our amazing icon, my super cool test map. Okay, let's travel to it. Oh, looks like I fell off. Okay, we spawn back onto it. We have our weapon rack right here. We have our spawner book with the weapons that spawn right on there. We have our map right here, where we can select any location we want. And we have our wave spawner. So let's just spawn, I don't know. Let's spawn Naruto for the fun of it. And he will spawn right in this corner. Okay guys. So as you can tell, everything is working exactly like how we wanted it. And yeah, so if you like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Helps out the channel a ton and I'd greatly appreciate it. Make sure to tell everybody about this video so that they can make their own awesome maps as well. But with that, thank you guys for watching.